Welcome back everyone to our third episode of the Here Now community channel. Today we have our second guest, this time a Dutch local. He is a lover of cultures, a Mandarin interpreter and a teacher with a golden heart. I know him for more than almost 5 years now, and his Wu Wei way of teaching has inspired many students like me to take certain things in life less seriously and make it a bit more entertaining. More than I made it when I was studying Chinese, for sure. Devoted to a lifetime of teaching and inspiration, I would like to introduce to you Mr. Mark Koning. Welcome to our show, Mark, and thank you for making the time to join us today.
Good morning, Dragas. Thank you, and thank you for your kind words in your introduction. The Wu Wei kind of teaching, that is, it's inspiring. Thank you. I'm touched by that because that is indeed what I try to give to people. It should be light and fun and not that serious, and then things will also happen. Maybe better.
Yeah, that's Wu Wei basically.
Yeah, exactly. But it works both ways. Some students, they think, I got what you mean. Wu Wei, do nothing. I got it.
But then you realize that that Wu Wei is not actually the Wu Wei that you try to give it to him.
It's really good, and it's also interesting to hear you say Wu Wei because it's a concept I read on during my studies of Chinese history, culture, and language. But I don't think I mentioned it in class because
you never did. But this was basically something that I noticed because I studied also, for example, Chinese literature and philosophy. So, but I mean, not to the extent that you did, but just for fun. And this was a concept that caught my eye, and I noticed it also in you as a person. I mean, I never saw you, I don't know, stressed in 5 years. I never saw you stressed once, but always smiling, always like, it was just like a summer breeze talking to you, you know, every time we were meeting on the hallway or in the class. That's basically the impression that that you gave me, at least.
Thank you for your kind words. It's nice to be described as a teacher who practices Wu Wei. I like that. I always people who ask me that, how do I do it? I said, hey, it's simple. It's my work. I do it more than being at home, so I should at least enjoy it.
Right. Especially now that you are actually at home.
Yeah.
So I want to learn a bit more about how are you and how are you doing these days? It's been a while since our last chat.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm in the middle of some transitions. I've transited from teaching in the classroom with students and direct contact to talking to a screen all the time and trying to get students to use their cameras so I can see if what I am sending, what kind of effect it has. Also, I've been sending. That is a big transition. I don't like to send. I like to communicate. Life is an interplay, and learning also is a two-way process. And so I've changed a little bit more to sending, which also has its advantages because it forces me to really think about what I say. And,
of course, yeah.
You know, present stuff in a way that is clear, and I don't like to talk much, so it's a challenge to put it in words, which is it's good. I think everybody should learn to, you know, we have a new TMS teacher, Miss Allen, social skills teacher. She did an interesting exercise on LinkedIn the other day, describing 6 words what you're doing right now or what you're experiencing. It sounds simple, it's actually quite hard, and it made me realize that if everybody communicates in a very clear, succinct way, how much better life would be.
Oh, so much simpler. So much simpler. Yeah.
I'm also talking from my experience as an interpreter and a translator. Sometimes people just go like ba 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 da ba ba da ba ba da ba, trying to convince somebody for hours. And you could summarize it with a yeah, no problem. But
Especially from Chinese, right? Especially coming from Chinese, where the way of like speaking is completely different than the one here in the West.
actually, Chinese compared to the West is much more direct. So in a way, the Chinese language is ahead of the other languages in the sense of compact communication.
But how many characters are there? Like 100,000 or something?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Okay, so that's a myth.
The thing is, no, no, no. The thing is, language, like anything else, is a living thing, and so it keeps changing. And if you take all the old words and the new words and you count them, the thing is, the Chinese doesn't use letters, so you only have words. And when you start counting them, you're bound to miss a few. So estimates they go from anywhere between 8,000 to 120, 135,000,
Wow. Okay.
depending on whether you also calculate, I mean, include words like cutting off the nose as a punishment or something.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
that is an old word. It's not in use anymore, but it is a word, and
It
it's
is a
part
word
of
still.
the
Yeah.
language.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I didn't know that. I mean, they have a word for cutting off noses.
Well, yeah, criminal law in China still is to this day. It's kind of, I don't know the exact English word, but it's meant to deter people, to make them afraid of doing things
Okay.
again. So cutting off a person's nose is quite a clear way of showing to the other people, look, if you do the same thing,
This
you will
happens.
end up looking like him.
Okay. Okay.
It's similar, to cutting off a hand for a thief and things like that, poking out
Right.
the
Actually.
eyes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, this happened many times in the West as well. If you look in the medieval times. Yeah. It's pretty interesting. How did you end up with Chinese, by the way? How did you get into it? What was your
Okay, I'll try to tell that in a story. It started in Germany.
It started in Germany? Okay.
Yes, when I was, I think, 7 years old, I went to visit my aunt, and I stayed there for 2 weeks. And I distinctly remember the feeling of driving there in the car and thinking, this is going to be another country. I'm not going to be able to talk to the people. They will not understand me. These are going to be the loneliest 2 weeks in my life. Then I got there. My aunt spoke Dutch, which is that was a plus, and I should have known that, of course. But
Sounds like
then we went outside. We played with the children, the other guys, playing cards, playing football, climbing trees. First day was kind of difficult communicating. At the end of the 2 weeks, I wasn't conscious of another language. I was just with friends doing stuff, just like at home. And then years later, when I finished high school, when it got time to choose studies, I was thinking, it's interesting how people communicate and how languages are used to do that. So I wanted to study a language that was a little more different than
Yeah.
German or Dutch. And so I contemplated Russian or Japanese, and I thought, well, there's no evolvement already there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like but China is developing. That's interesting, and they have a difficult script.
Yeah, for
Should be
sure.
there. Yeah. So if there's anything to learn about communication, it should be there with Chinese. That's how I started.
So you basically chose something in between Japan and Russia.
Yes.
Yeah. So always go the middle way.
That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah. That's how it came about. And then I found out it's hard work. You have to learn word by word. And I'm still working at it. Sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't.
Nice. Well, that's I think it's captivating the fact that you're coming from a Western background and you got so early, into an Eastern one, like in language such as Chinese, which is very complex. I don't think there are many people actually doing
Any
this.
Dragos, any language is complex. because it's used by humans and the human mind is complex, and we use it to communicate. So I don't think Chinese is, or any language for that matter, is more complex than another. It's just
Okay.
a slightly different way of
Pronouncing words.
oh yeah.
And what compelled you, by the way, to become a teacher? Like,
Ha! There's another interesting story. This is a story about the meaning of the word "not," or the meaning it has to the human brain. I think the human brain is incapable of feeling the impact of the word "not," because here's how it goes. When I went to primary school, my mom was teaching me in the 6th grade, 1 day a week. And when I was bad in class, I got told off in class and again when I got home. So I thought teachers are they suck. Then I went on to, high school. And then somewhere around the 2nd or the 3rd year, I realized this is a bad profession. My English teacher got a nervous breakdown, then my French teacher got a nervous breakdown, then the arts and craft teacher, the music teacher. Every year there were at least 3 teachers who got a nervous breakdown. I don't know if it was us but yeah, so when I was 15, I decided not to become a teacher.
Not to become a teacher, okay.
Long story short, then I graduated. I needed to do the army, the military service, and I refused, so I could do a civil service. And one thing led to another. There was a group of Chinese that needed a teacher, and with the school we made it into an acceptable job for the government for me to do the social service there. So my strong resolve of not becoming a teacher turned into my first job after
becoming a teacher.
I finished university. My first job was a teacher.
Okay.
So I don't know what went wrong there. Not become a teacher. The first thing I do is become a teacher. So maybe there's a lesson there. Whatever we think we want, avoid the word "not."
True. I mean, there's so many, let's say, in a way, self-imposed barriers when we go into that negative. It stops us from doing so many things. Even, like, because, just because, like, when you think of the "not," in a way, I believe that we are lacking understanding. So that's why we say no.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense to you?
It's a way of blocking off. And,
yeah.
And what the mind. Here's another example. In my 2nd year of studies, there was a exchange student from Canada, and she said, "You guys all have these 'don't walk on the grass' signs, but we approach it from a very different angle. We say, 'Please walk on the path,' and that kept with me always. It's much simpler to remember path if you think path. And if you say don't walk on the grass, what will stick with you is grass.
Grass, yeah. And you're going to walk on that grass, yeah.
Exactly. So that's a good thing. But this has kept with me because I found out that it's really true. If you think about what you want or what you want of people, you have to tell them, this. You want coffee? Say coffee.
Like in Chinese, right?
If you say to students, don't behave so obnoxiously, it doesn't work. You have to say, be nice.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
That's basically I think what you also taught us in the Chinese classes. Like that kind of because it's in Chinese as well, they are, as you said, they're very direct, and they we would say in the West, we would say, would you like a cup of tea? And they would say, do you want, or
you want tea?
You want tea? Yeah, exactly. So it goes completely direct, like straight to the point, and
yeah. They have another Chinese language has a good use for the word "not." When you want to express your disappointment or you're not agreeing to someone.
What else are you cutting there?
Yeah, I'm trying to look for the right word. But for instance, you're a boss. You're talking to an employee who did a really shitty job, and then you can say, "This is not your best work, is it?" Then you're using "best." The employee thinks, but you mean the opposite. So that is a good way of using the word "not."
That reminds me of, I think, the last Mandarin exam that we had together, the oral exam.
I
When
still have the jacket.
you still have the jacket, okay. I remember that I completely forgot. I thought it's like 2 days later or something. The exam was 2 days later. And then I figured that morning that I have the exam, and I was like, okay, I need to figure out something. And then I came up with like selling you my jacket, with the little words that I knew at that moment. It was
It's
something
great.
fantastic. Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's also a story. It's a good example of how stories work. You invented a story, and the exam changed from a very formal and deadly serious situation into a lively, a fun situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Into
I enjoy
basically
that.
Wu Wei, yeah.
Yeah, way. Yeah, I enjoyed that, especially P-Jacket. That was really a thing in
Pijaka, yeah.
the leather jacket. When I was just in China for the first time, it looked quite different from now. There were still a lot of those, uniform-like clothes, the blue ones for the workers, the green ones for the military. And P-Jacket was a thing. If you could afford a P-Jacket, then you were, the boss.
So
The
pijaka is a leather jacket, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And but how long was this? How long ago was this?
This was in 1991.
My God. Could you go to China back then?
Oh, you could go earlier. I have a book of a Swedish sinologist. Really interesting book, by the way, about the origin of the characters. She shows how the characters are actually just pictures with photos of nature and then putting the character next
That's
to it.
right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I think Lindquist, her name is. The character of China, I think the English title is. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
she went before the Cultural Revolution or during the Cultural Revolution. So it's always been possible to go to China, but not as easy as now.
Okay, man.
In
I mean,
fact,
I'm not sure now, but yeah, in general,
exactly.
yes.
It's getting more difficult now because the Chinese government has the same immigration rules, or that's not the right word, visa rules as the European countries used to have. So if we want to go to China for a work visa, it's difficult.
I was supposed to be in China, I think, last year in July. I was supposed to be there for like 2 or 3 months teaching English in Yangshuo.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I love that place. And it was like a Chinese Mandarin school that was basically teaching students English. And I was supposed to be there for, as I said, 2 or 3 months. And the visa process was insane. Like,
Yeah,
it was a hassle. It
yeah, it's
was,
different.
yeah,
It changed. China is a very self-conscious, developed country at the moment, and so they can have the same rules as we used to have for the Chinese. Because in 1991, it was quite difficult for a Chinese person to apply for a visa for a
for Europe,
European,
yeah.
and now it's reversed.
You were telling me about the retreat that you are about to attend, but I believe it
I was
cancelled.
going to. It would start yesterday. Okay, last year I went to a retreat in Belgium, a Vipassana retreat.
Okay.
Vipassana, as it was explained to me, is just observe what is there, and basically you sit and you try to see what's on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
which is quite hard. Uh, because at least for me, I don't see very much on the inside, so I had to be. But the experience of just sitting still for 10 days was. It's hard to describe it. I don't know. It was a significant experience.
Okay.
Something changed. Hard to say what, because everything looks the same, feels the same, and yet it's different. It's more quiet or something, more peaceful. I don't know, happy. So I wanted to go again, and I would have gone yesterday. This morning would be the start of the 10-day course, but due to Corona, here I am at home.
Okay.
But you can
No,
do this at home also. I sat this morning for an hour. You don't, because if you can sit with your eyes closed in a hall with other people, you can just as easily do it at home. You just need a relatively quiet place. I
Yeah.
found it's a little more difficult when somebody is building or
Or
sanding.
drilling or something. Yeah, yeah. I can
It's,
imagine. I can
but then
imagine.
then it's also possible.
But even, for example, if you go to an ashram in India or Burma, or you still have that kind of like background noise. So that's in a way inevitable.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, it's crazy because, for example, last year when I went to India, the ashram was just like on a boulevard, you know. So it was a small village, yet you know there was a lot of traffic, and you had, I believe, you had also last year when you went to Belgium, you had like a hall basically where you could go and sit and you know do your thing, and there was a lot of noise there as well, and I think that was in a way the challenge, you know, at the same time, you know, it's like an additional challenge if you start doing that. But after 10 days, you know, everything feels different, and you know, even that noise, it sounds like music, and
Yeah, that's way
it's
putting
something,
it.
yeah.
That is what changes. Everything has a more gentle feel.
Right,
I more
right.
gentle. I think that what we are made of, because when I sat for 10 days and try to observe what I am, I think what is the right term in this. It's not about who or personality. It's I think we're all made of a something, a what,
A something, yeah.
and you get in closer contact with that, with what we are made of, and
And what
so
do you think we're
noise.
made of? What did you get out of there? Or maybe not only out of there, you know, but I mean, I know that, for example, especially if you went that far and you went to study, for example, even like Chinese as a culture. Chinese also has its philosophy with all its, let's say, patterns of existence, if would be a right way to call it, where basically they have also their own something that everything is built of. And what did you figure there?
I figure to answer your first question, what are we made of? It's
Yeah.
hard to find the words. I think we're made of, for lack of a better word, love, immense love. That's what we're made of, intelligent
Okay.
love. And then to go back to China, I don't think the most, I don't think many people, not the majority of people for sure, they realize that in
We
today's
had a
China.
chat about this, right? We had a chat about this at some point in school about like how come the like China is so changed as a culture considering the philosophies in the past.
Yeah, I had a conversation with another student the other day who was in Thailand investigating or researching the behavior of the mainland Chinese guest, and we were also wondering what makes their behavior the way it is. So it's not immense love; it's more competitive and materialistic. Everything needs to be measured. Your intelligence is measured, your body height, your income, your success, everything is measurable. So today's society has moved away, I think, from the past. If you read the old text, the days of Confucius and Lao Tzu, 500 BC roundabout, it's different. I think the immense love thing, what we are made of, that realization is found in Taoism most clearly. The Tao is a good description of
That's something.
yeah, because the text mentioned that if you become one with Tao, everything will be effortless. You won't even need to eat or drink anymore. You can just be eternal.
And I think you know some of those people that talked about this and that explored this philosophy probably managed a certain you know to get to a certain age you know without eating that much, and probably that's why they reach a certain age. I mean, these guys are pretty famous.
You have those
Yeah.
stories of the sages that live in the mountains and they eat the wind and drink the mountain dew.
Wow. Okay. The Mountain Dew. Well, that's
What?
actually a beverage nowadays.
Yeah,
It
bit
has
different.
caffeine. It has everything you need. You know.
Yeah,
So
let's try that. That's the modern day version of it.
that's modern day version of it, right? Right. Because when you said about that something, what came to my head is especially that you mentioned about the Chinese mainland citizens. I think that love that you were talking about is basically something that is, as also as the Tao says, you have the black and white, but even that black and white is compelled into something. So despite the type of experience, or despite what the humanity is going through, or how people are, or how people behave, how the patterns of behavior changed. Because also in the past, if you look, there were so many, I don't know, there were so many crimes, there were so many diseases as well. There were always, let's say, for example, certain aspects that were, slightly more unpleasant. And even nowadays, we're just experiencing, I think, in a way, the same thing, under the same form, but with the different, let's say, with a different color. Like we have a different color that we're going through right now. And with all these things going on at the same time, I believe, in a way that this love that you were talking about, or the Tao, is the one that keeps these things moving, good or bad.
Yeah.
It's that flow basically that none of us can escape, yet if you align with it,
yeah, exactly. It's
you
life.
become it.
It simply is life. What makes a tree grow is what makes you grow, and is what makes everything happen. And you're right, it has a different color than 2,000 years ago, in the sense that things are different, and everybody lives like a king now, as opposed to 500 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's different.
Even with the, let's say, with the level of technology that we may reach at some point, I think things will not be necessarily much different, That essence will stay, and that essence is basically what allows it to...
There's a nice analogy with the ocean and waves. If you look at the sea, you see the waves as separate entities.
All right, yeah.
They rise, they fall, there's foam, there is everything. But if you look a little deeper, it's just one solid mass of water. And life is like that. On the surface, you and I look like different people, but at the same time, we're that mass of energy,
yeah.
Life,
matter or whatever, yeah.
And so for us, with our senses that are directed outward, we are different persons, and different, at the same time we are not.
Yes. And that's the Tao, right?
Yes.
It's called that's the definition of it, if you want. I mean, it's hard to give it a definition, but that's, now you see, now you don't, kind of way of being. And it's interesting that, all these, I haven't seen that much of this way of thinking, or this kind of philosophies here in the West. And this is, I think, one of the things that attract me most about the Eastern cultures. If you look in Japan, they have a similar way of seeing things. China compares, in a way, everything to nature, including their own alphabet. I'm not sure about cutting the nose. I'm really curious how that character looks like. But nevertheless, Yue, which is moon, right? Yue?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think it's a gorgeous character, and they've been so creative with like their own language, comparing it to nature, that it's very in a way easy to understand how they could develop such philosophies, And then you look at our letters, that is just basically, they don't really have a shape, I think. They can give them a shape. We learn shapes, basically. We didn't necessarily.
It's a different system. It approaches the whole. Our system approaches life, for purposes of conversation. It approaches life in sounds, and uses symbols to represent those sounds. The Chinese way of approaching life is through image.
Okay, so visualization, basically.
That's the difference. And there's also a nice visualization of life, of the ocean, the whole, the totality, which is a circle,
mm-hmm.
which is not, in Japan it's called Enso or something. I forgot the name. It starts really thick, and then it thins out, just like life, it starts really forceful, and then there's a bit of space, of nothingness, and then it starts again. And that is
That's
also
actually really interesting because if I remember I read a book on the Mayan Ouroboros, and that is basically a snake kind of like eating his own tail.
yeah,
And I think this is a sign of the ocean that you also mean in Chinese, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so basically that circle where you basically have like a bit of an empty space, yet it has like sort of a tail as it is up till to the end.
Exactly. It's eternity. It's pulsating life that expands and contracts and goes on forever.
Well, what was the hardest part of your story then?
Story, hardest part.
Did you get stranded in China by any chance? Did you face any
Let life happen, and I think from very early age on, I always have a sense of, what is the right word?
faith?
You have to really think about how you put it. I have to think about how I put it, not to create the wrong image. Okay, I'll make it tangible. I was in school, in preschool, so I was 4 or 5 years old, singing this. This was a religious school, Christian school,
Mm-hmm.
and we were singing this song about thank you for this new morning, and thank you that I can be with you for all eternity and with my whole being. And I completely got up in the feeling of that song. It wasn't the words. It's just that feeling of
Feeling.
lightness and happiness and
Right.
joy.
Yeah.
And in my life, I've always turned towards that feeling. So no matter what I did, it wasn't especially Chinese that made me happy, but just that feeling from doing Chinese and going to China and doing my work. I'm always trying to direct myself in the direction of that joy. And so when you ask me what is the hardest part of your story is when I think around 15 years ago, I kind of didn't feel that as much as other stuff. I don't know. I had, and I'm going to be really honest and vulnerable now. I had these moments of extreme sadness involving me, like talking about the ocean, like a big wave
I was
of
thinking about that, yeah.
for no apparent reason. I couldn't explain it, but it's kind of like the feeling of joy, but then opposite,
Right.
the other
Yeah.
way around. That was kind of hard. I wasn't happy. I don't know. It's not that the sadness was the problem. This was just a symptom of something that I don't know. It's probably the midlife crisis. I was 40 by that time, and so it's
Midlife
probably,
crisis? You have midlife crisis?
I don't know. It's the thing that I can think of, the only
Mm-hmm.
explanation I can think of. It's like that feeling of is this all there is, and what is the use of it all? And then I don't know. I started reading up on religious stuff because I wanted to find that feeling again. Then
Mm-hmm.
Christianity didn't do it for me, and Muslim is kind of similar. And then I ended up with Buddhism, and I read about karma and being reborn and samsara, the eternal circle of life.
Yeah.
That actually made it worse because I was thinking, oh my God,
Is
for
there
all
more?
this feeling, what is the use? So that was kind of a hard phase, and I think what is left most of that period is the feeling of thinking so much, always churning in my head, really caught up. I was living in my head at that time, really tired of it. Then reading about Buddhism led to meditation, and I thought I'd give it a go, and then that helped. It's also a really interesting story because I didn't feel it helped at all. I was just like still stressed and depressed and whatever.
Yeah.
But my family said, "But Dad, after 7 days already, you are much nicer guy than you were before." Meditation is powerful. It's interesting. It brings us to the heart of the ocean, of life, of joy.
I think it's in a way also can call it Wu Wei, because in a way you're sitting still, you're basically not doing much, you're just sitting. And in that sitting, there's tremendous power or energy that you can access.
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't experienced that that feeling of immense force that life is by meditating. It's what I'm looking for,
But
but I think
do you think that, let's say, that will help you for the better? Do you think you
I'm like this. I'm one of those nerdy students. So in school, I always, when I did something, I wanted to do it really well. I don't know. It's something that has to happen. When I cook, I want to do it perfect. And I'm okay with it not working out perfectly, but I want it to be perfect. When I studied Chinese, I wanted it to be perfect. So it took me a long time before was brave enough to speak Chinese to because I wanted to be perfect from the start. In everything I do, I want to be perfect. So in meditation, I want to reach enlightenment. I've been sitting for 12 years now. It's not going to happen, I think, in this lifetime.
well, luckily there's a samsara, right? So you have you're getting there. You're getting there, small steps.
It's okay because it has brought me a lot. I think meditation has enabled me to refine that joy a little bit and to do my work with joy and to get joy from interacting with people and to get joy from just being alive. Of course, life throws stuff at you, at me that I don't always like, or it doesn't throw the right things that I want this and I don't get it. That it's also a sort of, but it matters less.
Right, because I mean, in a way, you always, you never, in a way, you rarely get what you want, but you always get what you need. So most of the times, what we need is less. So we always get less, and what we
Those
get,
are
yeah,
those are
what we
great
get,
words, because you always get what you need. Yeah.
yeah, you always get what you need. You for the ones basically, we get most, punches. I would say, until we don't want it anymore, we're gonna settle with less, and less being what we need. And I think that's also an interesting way to put it philosophically, also from a Chinese perspective, because again, the Tao does the same. It limitates. It's a continuous process of decay, a process of like elimination and renewal. It's that movement, that flow. That in order to be continuous, it requires to leave a couple of stones behind, or to push them away, or there's also in Christianity, you have a lot of things like this. For example, when God gives you the people that you need and takes away the people that you think you need, but might affect your path. There are so many ways to put this, and we have it in so many cultures. I think it's just finding our own and the right one that works for us. As you found meditation.
I think what happened to me in meditation is I was able to create some distance between me and my thoughts. I am not my thoughts. This is a very important realization that I had over the years. In that difficult period, I was my thoughts. I was living in my thoughts. I was thinking continuously, and that was me. That was my personality. And now there's more distance. To give you I was very angry at something. I forgot the situation. I was angry at a person, but I had just had a long period of meditation, and so I observed myself as thinking, as seeing, so like, hey, you're angry, and that's it. Very
Yeah.
calmly, wow, you're really angry. And this is the difference with me being in my head. I would be, you this, and how can you?
Okay. Yeah.
And after meditation, it's, hey, I'm really angry.
Every day, good. Just so you know.
But it's helpful. It makes stuff that looks like important. It's actually not. A lot of stuff that we get worked up about is
Right.
not important.
There's one thing that I learned from Zen Buddhist meditation. So basically, I was studying a book about the ethics of the samurai and also their philosophy. And going through that, there was a meditation. I don't remember exactly. I think it was Shunryu Suzuki. I'm not sure exactly. And he said like you can meditate efficiently and effectively in 2 steps. You have to have a proper posture, sit up straight, basically, and be ready to die. So he had a very direct way of putting this, you know.
Right.
And what I remember that I also, because I had a time, I can relate to a time, for example, like that as well. And I didn't have it, I had it like I think a year ago, where I was completely off. And that's why I went back to India. I just wanted to, break everything off and break the chains and, get some space. And what I learned basically there is that whenever you have all these thoughts ramming into your head, use a sword. So basically, cut off. Don't let anything in. Just cut them off as they come. Cut it. As they come, cut it. And you keep cutting. And you keep cutting. And in meditation, I started doing that. And while I was meditating, I was in the ashram. I could feel that silence. I didn't, let's say in a way, I didn't even mind myself being there. I didn't necessarily observe myself as a piece of matter or a space, that I'm on or whatever. I was just basically there, and I was part of that, silence with honks on the boulevard, with all the trucks going back and forth, with other people just walking in. I couldn't hear a thing, and in that moment, I was just there, and it was beautiful, because it just helps you cut stuff, cut, everything that you don't need, just throw it away. You don't need it, As you said, you're not your thoughts, so why bother just keeping them, or why bother, opening Pandora's box like every single time, you're angry, because then if you do, oh.
The thing is, Dragos, it will happen. If you're angry, your Pandora's box will open. The thing is,
by itself,
will you let yourself get caught up in that?
Exactly.
Just take a step back and observe, because you're absolutely
breathe,
right. I think this is the bottom line. We are here and now, and it's beautiful. The
and that's
only
all there
thing
is.
you have to allow yourself the space to experience that.
I think that went pretty deep.
By the way, I'm going to try that next time I meditate. My readiness to die, because as I said before, I'm a nerd. I want to do things right. I'll try the Japanese way.
Try the Japanese way. I can also send you some files there, and tremendously useful. I mean,
yeah, it's you have to do it. That's the old thing. Reading about it is not going to help you. You have to do it. I think I have enough information for now. If it doesn't work, if I'm not enlightened tomorrow, I'll start reading.
I will just give you the name of it, like just so you have it. It's called Zazen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Zazen. I heard about it before.
It's really interesting. It's kind of like the meditation of the mountain, and it's not much visualization, or it doesn't have much. It just has presence. That's it. Nothing else. It's really,
I think when I go by the name Zen in Chinese is Chan, and the word for meditation is Zuo in Chinese. Zuo sounds a little bit like Zazen, so I'm guessing it might be the same word. It simply means sit and meditate.
Yes, because it comes from Bodhidharma.
Right.
It comes from Bodhidharma, and Bodhidharma basically comes from that region. So, Japanese borrowed a lot of philosophy from the Chinese, and of course they added their own touch. But
interesting. But I've mastered the Zen part of it, but I need to sit like I'm ready to die.
Yeah, cutting off everything.
Would it help to hold my breath for as long as possible to try and kill myself?
I wouldn't try that. I would. I think it talks about death in a Tao way, not necessarily in a literal or physical matter. So I wouldn't recommend that.
It's probably about dissolving, becoming like a wave, getting one with the ocean again.
Yeah, just give up, basically. Give up. And it's a 15-minute meditation, actually. That's how also they, in a way, recommend it. 15 minutes a day. And it's pretty, after, especially that you do it on a regular basis.
Sounds very doable. I'll start straight
it's
away.
not very doable, but it's good. It's effective. It's effective. It kind of like slows you down a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
Which doesn't sound good in today's society because I need to be fast to catch up and to be, but slowing down it will make you a lot faster.
Of course, but like think about it. It's like who cares in the end? You know, who cares if you're slower? I mean, you let's say are able to be introspective, you know, and to think about things before you do them. So the let's say the speed that you do things with, most of the times ends up in chaos. You know, as let's say, I mean, there's learning there as well, but I think there is more wisdom coming from knowing, let's say, how to slow down and how to, take it step by step.
I think when you better understand what you are, you'll get along better in the world.
Yeah, it's like it's like understanding more about yourself as a person before, let's say, trying to understand yourself as a professional or finding a profession or whatever else. I think it's something vital to inquire, even though you don't find an answer, but just to inquire and be curious, because that is basically what you have to live with yourself for the rest of your life.
Yeah, be open. It's like making the circle round. Getting back to Harari. In that chapter of his book, where at the end he talks about meditation. And it's the same course that I would have been in now, Vipassana. You just sit, you observe your breath for the first few days to focus your mind, just only focus it on your breath. And then you direct your attention through your body to observe what is there. That's basically it. And he said, study the whole of humanity, and he is a brilliant mind, and he is a brilliant author. He had the biggest difficulty in just focusing his attention on the breath. He couldn't, not even, it took him days before he could be aware of his breathing.
without let's say running into a into a wall with it. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm saying this, human life, and especially today, probably is so fast. We're doing so many things. We're caught up in everything, but we have difficulty, noticing the basic things of life, like breathing, or
right. Right.
The story of humans will change, I think, if everybody tries and get aware of what it is that we are.
In the bigger picture, basically, of the of this experience, basically, we're living.
Yep.
And not take things seriously, right, Mr. Koning?
So I will definitely try that 15-minute Zazen meditation.
Definitely. Let me know how it goes for you.
Yes, I will.
So, Mr. Koning, I feel truly humbled that you've accepted this invitation, and it was an honor having you over. Thanks so much for coming over again today and having this lovely and insightful chat.
It was entirely my pleasure. I mispronounced pleasure in presence, but that is what it's about, Dragos, really, presence. We need to be, your website is called Here and Now, and that is all about presence. If everybody can be present at
that's
all
basically
times,
what I'm trying to do through the
not caught up in their work so much. I mean, you have to do what is needed, but be present, be here, be now. Presence is good. So thank you for allowing me to be present here. It's really nice.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure, and I'm happy that
exchange ideas like this, there is growth, and it's really nice.
So I'm glad that after all these years, I can see how you're still inspiring people, and not only students like me, but like in general with your approach to life, basically, and living. You're great. Thank you so much again for everything you have done for us all these years. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Koning is currently working
hard on the Zazen meditation, and I will do that for the summer, and then we'll see what happens next.
Mr. Koning, thanks once again for tuning in today. In our next episode, we will speak to a dear friend and former colleague from Cambridge, USA. He is a man of many talents, among which he is a researcher and teacher at Harvard in the mindfulness department, a video producer with 2 Emmy Award nominations, and a fantastic performer on the stage of life. This was your host, Dragos. Stay tuned, and if you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to give us feedback, subscribe, and follow. Until next time, stay here and now. Goodbye.